Welcome everyone. This video is going to be kind of an introduction video to music theory and how we can utilize music theory in FL Studio to create music, create melodies, and chord progressions. So as you can see, I got FL Studio open, and in the channel rack I have two channels. So I have a main sound that I'm going to want to actually make chords with, which is a Rhodes piano, and then another one is an FL keys, which is just stock. So basically, music theory is just a theory basically where it's telling you what sounds are going to sound good together and what chords are going to sound good together, and it shows you how to build chords and melodies. So there's a couple different ways we can go about doing this. So in a very basic format, there's a major scale and a minor scale, and the way we build this is using two different codes is basically what you could call them, and you can start on any note. So let's say we start with E and we want to create an E major scale. So the way we build an E major scale is by going up a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, and that is a major scale. Now if you're wondering what a whole step and a half step is, basically a whole step is you're skipping a note. As you can see, there's a space, and a half step is there's no space, so it's the next closest note, and that was basically how you build major scale. Now what's really cool about FL Studio is if you build this major scale, using our FL keys channel, now if you go into the piano roll for the other sound, you can see these notes are kind of grayed out and it shows you them, which makes this super easy and intuitive for building chord progressions while using a different channel as a reference. So that's why I have an FL keys and a Rhodes piano. So essentially, we're building the scale using the FL keys, and then we can utilize that with any other sound you want to build chords with. So now that we have the major scale, what I like to do is highlight it and copy it by holding down Shift and clicking and dragging. So now we have basically a duplicate. And so what I do is I drag this down and I start that very top note on the E. So now we have 2 octaves, and now we can do the same for another octave above. Make sure we start at the E, and you can do this even more if you wanted to. You can drag it up another octave, you can drag it below another octave, and then what I like to do is highlight it by pressing Command A if you're on Mac, or Control A on Windows, and now we drag it all the way out. So now it's extending for the full 4-bar count. Now we go back to our channel rack, make sure it is muted because we're not actually using FL keys. This is just our reference point. So now when we go back to, I have Omnisphere open with a Rhodes piano, right click, go to piano. Now as you can see, all these notes are grayed out, and that is basically what is in the correct scale. So now any note that I play within these grayed, whatever note I play within these gray marks is going to be in the correct scale. And if you can see, I'll show a little example. Obviously it's not a crazy melody or anything, but it is in scale and it's in the correct key. So one way we can build a chord is by putting multiple notes together. And so major scale, or major chord rather, is built by skipping 4 notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you skip 3 notes from that note, 1, 2, 3. So that is a major chord. Now every scale has a certain amount of major chords and a certain amount of minor chords, and this has to do with scale degree, but for someone who doesn't know music theory, you might just mess around with these notes until you get something to sound good. Now, a minor chord is built by going up 3 notes from the first one, 1, 2, 3, and then 4 notes from that note, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a minor chord. And there's other chords too, such as diminished chords, augmented chords, but for the purpose of this video, major and minor is a good way to start. And you can actually invert these chords, meaning moving up a note by an octave. So it's still the same chord, but now one note is moved up an octave. Gives you a different tone. You can do that the same with this, which is cool. And you can also add notes to this as well, such as adding it and making it a major 7 chord. Gives it a really cool tone, different from just a major. Makes it a little bit more full sounding. We can do the same for the minor chord. So as you can see, it's just about counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a minor. And then we can make that a minor 7 chord. And then let's say we want to invert it, move that up an octave. Very cool. And then to move these up an octave, you just select it, press Command up or down on the down or up arrow, or Control up or down arrow if you're on Windows. So as you can see, it's just kind of about drawing some notes in, counting, and then you can add the extra notes to make them 7th chords to make it a little bit more full sounding. And you can even add in more chords to make it a 9th, 11th chord, and it just keeps going on. But eventually it'll sound a little bit too muddy. So you have to be careful with adding too many notes. And this is where you could, adjust the rhythm. And so that's really cool. And then so if you wanted to add a melody, what I like to do is I'll clone a layer. So we have just a duplicate copy of that same Rhodes piano. And something you could do, if you wanted to, was you could remove the FL keys. And now you can see the chords. And if you wanted to, you can mimic your chords by playing melodies using those same notes. And we would probably have to, I'm on the wrong layer, that's why. So as you can see, all I'm doing is just mimicking those chords by playing the notes within those chords, and it sounds great for a melody. And you can adjust the rhythm, you can adjust which notes you're using. So that's just a major scale. And now we can use a minor scale. Now we can start from the same note, start from our E note. And now, the kind of code I was mentioning before is a little bit different this time. So now it's whole step, half step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. A little bit different than the major scale. And we can do the same thing, click and duplicate. And now we can extend all of these out. And now this is our minor scale. Now we can make sure to mute FL keys, open up Omnisphere again, boom, same thing. So now if you want to build a minor scale, minor chord, it's the same theory as before. You go up 3, and then you go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And same type of deal as before. If you want to build a major chord, start on the root note, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3 on the top note. Same type of thing. Start on the root note, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4 for a minor chord. So minor is you go up 3, and then you go up 4. Major is you go up 4, and then you go up 3. And then we can make these major sevens and minor sevens by adding that top note. And we can invert them, move some notes around. Cool, so now that's sounding a little bit more minor, and we can delete that now and open up the next one. And as you can see, our chord notes are there, and we can make our melodies this way. And yeah, that's just a basic introduction to how you can utilize music theory in FL Studio and show how those notes kind of help you build chords and then eventually make melodies out of it. So hopefully this video has helped you, and thank you for watching.